Coming up in this episode, Vietnam is hit by Typhoon Yagi, the second biggest storm of 2024. Lots of wind and rain at the moment in Vietnam, China and Thailand. I'm still a bit wet, mind you. Check out the footage here. Major flooding, villages destroyed and winds recorded at more than 250 kilometres per hour. That's 135 knots or 155 mile per hour. Now can you imagine that? 250 kilometres per hour. I don't actually think you can imagine it. You'd have to experience it. The worst I had was 55 kilometres per hour. I think I told my patrons, I can't remember where I posted it, but and my anchor chain was probably 30 metres, 40 metres out, but in very shallow water. So I had probably somewhere between 10 to 15 to 1 scope, and the anchor chain was straight and pulled 2 anchors out. So 250 kilometres per hour. So let's say you're anchored, hopefully with nothing behind you, something's got to give. The chain will go straight, therefore will pull the anchor out, and then you're adrift. You've got your chain and your anchor still out though. Let's say you go into deep water, so that's going to act as a bit of a drogue and might direct you into the wind. I think the worst, let's say if you're in a catamaran and you get beam on, which you tend to do, you get in seas, but with wind that much, are you going to feather a bit because of the windage on the back cockpit area? You don't know. All boats would be different, but hopefully, or you had a drogue out, you could throw that out. But I think the chain and the anchor might feather you a bit. But still, terrifying situation. I think I'd prefer to be at sea, even though if I was at sea, I'd be preferring I was on land. But you got to protect your boat. Drogue it, maybe from the front. That'd feather you. That would also anchor you, so you wouldn't, get tipped over. Maybe that, if you could. If it was a surprise storm, I'm sorry, my mind's racing. I'm just going through all the possibilities. But, can you imagine? You'd have to have the para anchor or drogue already deployed in the water, because there's no way in the world you'd be able to get that out of the bag. Boom! It'd just go, ripping someone's hand off or whatever, or taking rigging, solar panels or whatever. So it'd already have to be in the water. So like that Formentera storm, you'd have to be watching it. And you'd have to get out of the bay because obviously it was blowing everyone to shore. Anyway, my mind's a whirl with possibilities. Now check this out in Vietnam. Can you imagine driving over this huge steel bridge and suddenly it disappearing? Especially the guy in the truck. I doubt that he would have survived. He would have gone straight to the bottom. But if you look to the end of the video, you can see how strong the river is. Literally the whole steel structure is going downstream. That is unbelievable. Tragically, more than 200 people lost their lives in Vietnam alone. It mostly happened in the north. I think a whole village slid into the river and other villages were completely inundated. We had a bit of a stiff breeze, which created this new hairstyle. I know, shocking, isn't it? Only a mother could laugh. I was going to do the whole video like that, but I didn't want to put new viewers off. And also the fact it's too difficult to frame that large, I don't know what you'd call it, bouffant of a maelstrom of hair. Anyway, the show must go on. The guys are laying down the steel posts to support the new Odyssey. All laser level, and each post has a sacrificial aluminium spacer bolted to the steel frame at the top, like in my boat here, where the keel is laid down and welded at exactly the right height and angle. Wow, 3 welders on my boat. I haven't seen that in a few weeks. Oh no! I got more than 5 people on my boat. I'm getting a bit worried. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. One guy working on the side, 7 people.
Like, subscribe, comment.
I got a very sad message this week from a Hayley Sorensen about her grandfather, Ricky Sorensen, who passed away suddenly at the age of 66. Apparently he was a big fan of Sailing into Freedom, and she expressed the wish that I, on behalf of Ricky, would say goodbye to Ricky's friends because he really did die quite suddenly. Apparently he wanted to get out in the ocean on a 50-foot sloop and sail the world, but sadly he never got to do that. Although he did, I'm informed by Haley that just before he died he sailed away for a week on a lake, but then when he came back he passed soon after. From what I've been told by Haley, I reckon Ricky and I would have been mates. So on behalf of Ricky, I'd like to say to all the people that knew Ricky Sorensen, goodbye. 66 is too young to die, I think. Goodbye. That bit there fits into this slip over here for the tilting helm position. The GoFundMe campaign is halfway to goal, good people. Top stuff. So who do we have going onto the Column of Heroes this week? We have David Olsen for the third time on the GoFundMe campaign and Thor Christian Svenevig for the second time. But Thor was also on the original Kickstarter list, so now qualifies 3 times to go on the Column of Heroes. I will have to think of a special reward. I made a mistake with Mitch and Becky Graham. I accidentally wrote Graham. So you're probably saying, why doesn't he just use alcohol and remove it that way? Well, I had a bottle of alcohol and the cleaner took it. So I now have to resort to harder means. I like how good-natured Mitch was. I mean, they gave $125 and I couldn't even spell their name right. So let me read you what he wrote. He goes, maybe the correct spelling is just for the welded-on name. So there's the business right there. Spell everyone incorrect to be drawn on and extort more money. No, we cannot do that. The least I can do is spell the name right, so sorry about that, Mitch and Becky Graham. Top stuff. To be drawn on the boat, we have Eric Schmidt for the third time, Christian Wenger and Mikko Turunen. I should also note that there have been about 25 anonymous people that have given to the Elcano World Challenge. Thank you all for donating and supporting the Elcano World Challenge. If you want to be on the list or welded permanently onto the boat, the links to the GoFundMe campaign is in the description. Geez, this episode is all over the place, but never fear, good people, we have some more cutting, grinding and welding coming up. Actually, less of the cutting and more completing of the welds. These blowers, or suckers depending on which way you orient them, are a godsend. It is the only relief in 36 degrees and almost 100% humidity. The weather forecast says 36 degrees, feels like 46. This high humidity and lack of breeze is a killer combination. My uniform is completely wet after 15 minutes, but the Vietnamese seem to be completely dry. It's amazing, it's amazing.
Like, subscribe, comment!
I know I joke about the number of viewers I have, usually the overemphasis on the number 17, saying that whenever we get to 50 likes, we can all get jackets. You guys get to see me a lot, and just from that story about Ricky, I don't get to really meet many of you. I mean, I'm getting to meet more of you now on the chat groups. I'm a bit of a hermit sometimes, but maybe we can remedy that when I go around the world and I can meet up with you guys and have sale days or barbecues or whatnot. Because what really makes the channel, I mean, sure, I do some videoing, I say some poor jokes, and there's a bit of self-deprecating humour which a few people enjoy. But what I see on the other side is, I mean, we've had a lot of ups and downs, and look at us now. I mean, we're still struggling, but we're on a different level, and I owe that all to you guys. So thank you for that. It's a special relationship I have. I don't think I've got a big audience. I mean, we all should be congratulated about how far this channel's come on such low numbers. I mean, I estimate that the core group that really likes Sailing into Freedom and genuinely wants the best for me and the channel is probably only about 10 or 12,000. But it's not much. But it's the quality of people in that 10 or 12,000 that I think makes a difference. And that's why we are where we are today. In such, well, I wouldn't say it's a short period of time, but we've had a lot of disasters. But here's what's surprising, and I've got to thank some people that at my lowest times, and I've had quite a few, and I've shown them on the channel, there's people that have written in and have written these very well thought out emails, and it's very difficult for me to even talk about it, but they are very, very touching to me. And surprisingly, they give me hope by telling me that my channel has given them hope. Now, it's hard for me to explain that. I don't think I explained it that well. But they explain to me how in their times of darkness, COVID, death, or whatever, they've turned on Sailing into Freedom and it's made them smile. Or they've seen me in my times of, disaster, and they see me pull through, and it's given them hope. So that's surprising to me, because all I see is some crazy guy trying to shove plastic bags into a hole, into a sinking boat, and doing it very poorly. But I'm glad I have given some people hope. And I do thank you for those emails, because sometimes, especially with lack of sleep and a lot of stress, they make all the difference. So I've got you quality folk out there that are part of my audience, but really a part of Sailing into Freedom, because it's all of us that make this channel. So I thank you for that.
Like, subscribe,